Team Baramis, are we ready to share ancient wisdom secrets on cannabis?
Oh, yes,
yes.
Ernst. Yeah.
Right, for people out there, the introduction on my far right side is Bebazola, and her ordinary name that we call her is
Eliska.
Eliska. I think you all know us by now, but just for the reason you must know us. This is Ibulama, and her ordinary name is Nikita. On my left hand side is Kabos, and what's giving consciousness to his body's name is Porentel. I'm Ernst Jordan, and what's giving consciousness to my body is El Tizator. And the four of us represent Baramis Tower of Light.
In today's program, which is program X, we share ancient wisdom secrets on why the governments of the world don't want people to smoke cannabis or use cannabis products other than the governments authorize. What are they scared of?
Yeah.
Please, if you missed out on previous programs, catch up in order to understand the contents, words, titles, ceremonies, etc. of this and other forthcoming programs.
Please help us to help others by pressing the like, share and subscribe buttons, as well as the little bell icon to be in line for more ancient wisdom secrets.
Team Baramis, I think people out there cannot wait to hear what we have to share with them on the subject of cannabis. What other names do you have for cannabis so that people not speaking English can also know what we are talking about, or those people who's not used to the word cannabis?
Yeah.
There must be other words.
Yeah.
I must admit that when I researched the contents of this program, I was surprised to see so many different names for cannabis.
Yeah.
Really, it was actually,
It is.
I sat there and my mouth hang open and listen to this. What other words are there? Cannabis, pot, kanatva, sativa, that is in Russian, reefer, grass, dope, ganja, Mary Jane, hash, herb, Aunt Mary, skunk, boom, chronic, chiba, blunt, ashes. What is that word?
Achishi.
Yes, baby bang. Ooh, another
so many.
strange name. Bammy, blanket, boo boo, bobo, bush, bomber, boom, broccoli. I wonder why broccoli. Well, cripple, dacha. In South Africa we know it as dacha. Dinky, dow, ding, donna, Mary, Johanna or Maria Johanna, flower, flower tops, ganja, Gasper, giggle, smoke, good giggles, good butt, hot stick, J, jolly G, green, joy smoke, joystick, look around, Rothmans, etc. Yeah, they actually say if you smoke cannabis, you start looking around for what? For where the police will be, because in the olden days it was not legal to smoke any cannabis in South Africa. If they caught you with one seed in your pocket or somewhere, they will lock you up. You know, in the olden days, I think it was 1976 or 7, in a court here in Bloemfontein, the judge or the person that was accused of smoking marijuana or dacha, they found a few seeds in that person's pocket. And I was in the court when they, the judge said 6 months in prison.
It's just.
You know, it is
Not
ridiculous, but it is because they are all part of the one satanic,
Yeah.
universal, or global government.
Most people among white Christians worldwide are brainwashed by the Christian churches, dark side governments, and uninformed brainwashed parents to believe that the regular use of cannabis lowers your intelligence and brain capacity, which is long ago proven lie. The smoke or use of cannabis does exactly the opposite. Pretending that cannabis is a drug is a typical lie out of the mouths of people who never ever used cannabis before and therefore have no right to judge cannabis smokers for one because they self never experienced cannabis the correct way. They judge on what they heard, not on what they personally experience, a typical sign of mind control.
Yes, Nikita, thanks. But why do we say it's a typical personality or a typical sign of mind controlling? I mean, if I never ever have used, let's say, a grandpa headache powder, and other people are using it, and I start accusing them of being stupid or whatever. I mean, that is ridiculous.
No.
I cannot give any comments on a subject that I know nothing of.
Yeah.
So what are they? What is that proof to us from white Christians here in South Africa? They go along with the flow. If somebody says cannabis is a drug, they will definitely accept it without going and do some research or
Yeah.
anything. Cannabis, people, is not a drug, but a herb. Are you ready for the first ancient wisdom secret on cannabis? My one guide is Zai, who was a Siberian shaman in his last life on earth before he reached spiritual full enlightenment, confirmed to me, and listen to these words. This comes from the Lightside above. Cannabis is the best herb, the highest entrusted humanities on earth with. Although humanities misuse this very high dimension herb for selfish reasons. You know what? There's something else I would like to share for those people who doesn't know it. For nearly 240 billion years, only the gods, the creator, Hefkanams, etc., used the earth as a planet for them to stay on. Those, not all of them, only those who built or created the earth as part of our star system. And I mean the gods to use it,
Yeah.
but when they decided to give the earth or to transform the earth in a school of learning, spiritual school of learning, they took away what they wanted to take away, but they left a few stuff behind. Stuff like what? A lot of different strains of cannabis, magic mushrooms, all that stuff. But to Christianity, you know, it is a sin. And I can only say, why do we, all the dacha rokers or smokers of cannabis, why are we spiritual enlightened and they not? We are not fully enlightened, but we know certain things, but they will never.
Cannab is one of the biblical names for cannabis. How do people misuse cannabis? Most people who smoke cannabis smoke it to get high for the wrong reasons. Some people smoke cannabis while using alcohol drinks.
Oh, yes, Iliska, before you go on, let us just discuss it. What is the difference between a party where cannabis smokers are and a party where alcohol
No,
users
You
are?
can't even compare
You
it.
cannot compare
No.
it. You know, the more you go to the cannabis group, they will be soft. They will be speaking in a soft voice. They will speak about truth.
Yes.
You know, stuff that important. If you come where a lot of people are having, let's say, an alcohol party, it will be loud, it
Yeah.
will be aggressive, it will be anything that we don't want. I mean, think of the radiation vibration of those people. The one is affecting the other one. Sooner or later, that is why there's always fights in drinking places and bars, etc., etc.
So technically speaking, alcohol makes you stupid and Cannabis makes you wise.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you so much, because that is very true. In other words, use cannabis, it will make you wise. Use alcohol, it will make you dumb. Easy as that. Proven 1,000,000 times. You know, they wanted to, to prevent people to smoke cannabis. But they're not willing to prevent people to buy alcohol.
Yeah.
Why? Because they make money
Yeah,
off
they
it.
make money.
Now they would like to make cannabis, they will transform it into something like hemp. I'm not interested in that rubbish. It cannot heal, it cannot do anything. It's a lower quality product. Why always go for the lower or grades or whatever in everything? No, definitely not.
People smoke it in places that are not sacred space.
Yes. Now
Yes.
before we go on, let's discuss that also. What do you mean, or what does she mean by saying they smoke it in places that are not sacred space? Sacred space means the place in which you use cannabis is so sacred that, you know, no evil, no demon, nothing will enter that space, because it will be shining as a monodon angel. You know, that white, you see the angel standing there, let's say on a trail cam, and then all of a sudden it burst into one big, beautiful, blinding white flame, and then it disappears. This is what sacred space means. Now those people go there, they are already, some of them, full, possessed by earthbound spirits and demons and all that rubbish, and now they want to smoke cannabis to get on a high. Who smoke cannabis to get on a high? We're not interested in that. You know, in the beginning, you had to take it, and this is why we didn't want to smoke it unless or until we knew of better.
Yes. Also, people on high schedule psychiatric medicine smoke pot.
Oh, what is the danger in that?
When you take the psychiatric medicine, it's already a chemical drug.
Yes,
So-
that puts you on a high.
Yes, so there's already a demon, a part of that pill that you are taking. So
Yes.
now you go and take a pot with that. And I think that's a lot of ways that the society sees different people taking pot, but they don't think about what else are they taking with the pot for them to have that type of behavior or be like that.
Have you ever experienced people who used pot together with alcohol or prescribed medicine as antidepressants?
Yes, yeah, no, it's
You also, me also. You don't want even to become involved. And you know, that is why if you smoke pot in the correct sense, with the correct intunement up here, for a spiritual reason, to open up the third eye, for instance, then it will happen to you. But it doesn't help you to go there and now you have a smoked pot and you have a glass of alcohol, let's say brandy and coke or wine or whatever, plus you are already possessed if you are suffering from depression, because what did the Pope declared? That depression and all that kind of stuff is nothing else than demonic possession. Get rid of the demon. Now you've got a demon, you using, let's say, antidepressant and a pain pill and whatever, and now you're having alcohol. And then when, you know, something horrible happens, who's going to get the blame? Cannabis, which has nothing to do with
nothing
it.
to do with that.
So if you see cannabis, destroy everything or take away anything else that is medicine, like psychiatric medicine or any other prescribed medicine, as well as
Alcohol
alcohol
and other drugs.
and
Yes.
other drugs.
That's another combination.
So if you ever hear somebody says that, you know, they hate, for instance, cannabis because her son smoked it and he was in a terrible accident. But when they did the
What
autopsy, he was under the influence of
This and
alcohol.
that and that, yeah.
I mean, I will not drive a car if I smoke cannabis. But the cannabis that we use for spiritual reasons doesn't affect you up here. You can take a whole cigarette. You will be able to tap into, lock in other dimensions, light side dimensions, etc. But there's no way that you will become possessed if you do it in the correct way. Now here are more ancient wisdom secrets on cannabis. Please adjust your minds out there for the following. Cannabis is not a drug like the chemical substances that keeps a lot of people on earth alive, like prescribed drugs. Cannabis is a herb containing the most or the utmost best herbal qualities for the real you, who give consciousness to the body of flesh you see daily in a mirror. Now, only for those people who are not aware of this, maybe it's your first time you're looking to the first program or this program in the series of programs. So on your behalf, we would like to just emphasize the following. You are not the body that you see in the mirror. You are the consciousness giving life form or human soul giving consciousness to that body. You know, if you can only start realizing that, and that you use cannabis in order to, there's a lot of uses for cannabis, but what we do the whole range. In other words, you do it for psychic development, for opening the third eye, and then psychic development to become spiritual. You will never become spiritual in a pure way if you don't see and experience in other dimensions. Otherwise, you are going to stay a believer. I believe because other people told me what is going on in dimension 5. Or 4 even, the crossing over dimension. We are not interested in that. Use it the correct way and you will see what it can do for you. We use it for medical reasons also because it can take away cancer. We've got the, oils, the butters, and not what you know out there. We've got special recipes, where we do this, and we've helped a lot of people who have been written off by their medical practitioners. You've got cancer, you don't want to take radioactive treatment, or you don't want to take, what's that other thing?
Chemo.
Yeah, they won't take that, so then you cannot go home and die there on your own. That's rubbish. A lot of those people came to me, and I've got a very entrusted friend in Bloemfontein coming from a very high dimension, who also, he's a specialist in making cannabis related medicines. And I can promise you, people who were written off, go back home and go and die there on your own. You've got 3 months. They eventually came to me or to that other friend, and we helped them, and today they are back in work, and you will not tell them anything wrong about cannabis, because that was what saved their lives. Now, who gave this utmost best herb for us humans to use, and for what specifically? The highest orator Yahweh Goria. The answer to why comes later in this program. Who gave it to us? The Most High, and all the hierarchical, let's call them Toratas, Toratares, super creator, Hefkanams, gods, goddesses, etc. Lightside. Of course, there will be darksiders also who used it, who came to a fall, who's serving the dark side, satanic realms at this stage. Now, for what purpose will a person smoke pot? This is where it becomes very interesting. An ordinary person, non-psychic, non-spiritual person will smoke it to get to a high. You know what I did? When I started suffering due to that high that I get from pot, I mean, if you read my books, you will see that the background I came from was not a very good background. I don't like alcohol. I will use it, but sparingly, if I have to. But I will definitely not smoke until I'm intoxicated, become loud, become aggressive, start speaking rubbish, etc. That is not us. But the first thing we smoke cannabis for, or why did we start smoking cannabis, was what? To take away the brainwashing. In other words, to open the third eye. So I don't want to feel as if I had, let's say, a beer in my body, because if I use one beer, for instance, my tongue will be so, I will not be able to speak. I don't like it, so that is why we, I don't want to say create, but we go for cannabis strains that doesn't make you feel intoxicated, because we have to work when we take that stuff. If you smoke it according to shamans' prescriptions, you cannot be brainwashed anymore. If you use it according to shamans' prescription, it can heal cancer and dozens of other general well-known illnesses, which cost people big time. If you know people who's at the steering wheel of their own lives, what are they normally go through? Depression, all that, bipolar, depression, all that kind of illnesses. And, you will not convince a mind-controlled person that he is mind-controlled. The only way to convince him is give him cannabis to smoke. But we'll come to that later. Who misuses cannabis? The people who are uninformed on the real purpose of cannabis, or pot as we refer to it. How are people misusing cannabis? They smoke it while taking alcohol or chemical prescription medicines. What are we as children of the highest Torah Re Yahweh Goria supposed to use cannabis for? First, to open the third eye. Why do you want your third eye to be open?
So that you can see in other dimensions and tap in, be in contact two-way with your
For
creator.
sure, Iliska, what also? Another reason?
Get psychic and
To
spiritual.
see what is going on around you, not believing that there's no slavery on earth anymore.
Yeah.
Of course there's slavery. You watching here, we are all slaves for the satanic one world government. They are so mind controlled they cannot even if they have an IQ of 306, they will not be able to realize they are actually slaves in the hands of Satan, and who's got the most power on earth. Now, how are people also misusing cannabis? They take too much or too little. I mean, there's a description. If you want to open the third eye, you will take 2 or 3 of a certain strain of cannabis pools per night. You don't take a bunch and smoke yourself until you're near dead. You will never smoke cannabis again, because it's a very horrible experience, especially if you're not shielded and you took too much cannabis in, and now you look into dark side dimensions. And this, I've never looked in there, not while having cannabis, but people who I know who use cannabis and everything, alcohol and tablets, whatever, they will also use thins tablets. You know what is thins? To get rid of extra fat. They will use a whole sheet of that, then smoke cannabis and taking alcohol with it. So I mean, no, it's not going to work. What does cannabis heal? It is an ingredient in many Zoramoleke, very high dimension healing arts recipes. That is what we do. You know, if you come for or let's say you stay in Bloemfontein, or you are here, and you know you are being possessed by earthbound spirits, and you've got 2, 3 more personality or personalities, etc. Of course, there will be in some of the antidotes. We use cannabis, certain strains, not any cannabis, but a certain strain. Actually to heal people also from very serious demonic illnesses. So it heals any consciousness giving life form, Lightside, while demons are not very fond of persons smoking cannabis. Why not? Because they know we can see them. We, not all of us, but a lot of us can learn, all of us can learn to see demons inside people. You know, even if you sit like this and you look, let's say there, this angle, you will see something black or so, and on this side too. What is it that you actually see? Negative energy, which can be what? Either a dark side demon of one or other kind. What else can it be?
A dark side,
earthbound.
Yes, something like that. So they know we can see them, and they're not very fond of us.
I'm sure you as Christians or researchers doing research on Christianity must have come across the title.
The Israel High Priests of Cannabis. What is Cannabis? You must have seen it somewhere in the history of Israel, in the biblical Old Testament. What is if you, or that is if you're using an unfalsified Bible translation. Now before we go on, Iliska, can you imagine what the let's say the church Christians out there, what their reaction will be on what Cabos just said? What did he say? That you must have come across the title, the Israel High Priest of Cannabis. It is in the Bibles, people will come to that. You must have seen it somewhere in the history of Israel, in the biblical Old Testament. That is if you're using an unfalsified Bible translation.
Cannabis is short for cannabis, a name people gave to this herb, which is also known as baseta. Baseta is one of the Tavala names the creator Hefkenams called cannabis.
Yes, thank you, Iliska. And you know, this is very true. We've discussed a lot of names, but those are the names that people gave to cannabis or dacha, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, who created cannabis? The Most High and His Creator, Hefkenam. So will we rather prefer their name to use, the name they gave it, or in South Africa, dacha? What sounds the better, dacha or baseta? Much better. I prefer that, you know, and only the thought that it comes from the Most High is so soothing. The biblical 12 tribes of Israel served the Pharaoh of Egypt for 431 years. Now this is where you should listen very focused, because if you not believe that all the Israelites were smoking dacha or cannabis, you must listen. It was during these 431 years that the priests of Israel learned from who? The Egyptian high priests, the different medicinal and psychic uses of cannabis or cannabis. That is why they call them the priests of cannabis. Now ordinary Christians and dominees and pastors, etc., they don't know these names, you know. You will see in the Bible other names also, but In fact, the name of the true Lightside Hefkenam, who created most cannibal strains in Egypt. What is his name? Can you remember? Ula Azara Makori. What is his nickname on which we know him? Zaza. Z-A-Z-A. His wife's name is Sesat, pronounced as Zezat. Zaza is from the seed line, the Hefkenam seed line of Zazat. People see him as a prince from the Zazat, true Lightside seed line. On the images on the screen, you can see Zezat encrypted on the walls of the Ramses temple in Egypt. Check out the cannabis leaf above her head. You know, it's so beautiful if you look at the pictures. There's not one. There are dozens and dozens in different temples in Egypt, as well as wherever you go on earth. You will find that seven-leaf herb somewhere there. But it's so obvious, you know, if you go on a Christian tour in Egypt, and here is this beautiful, I've got a picture, you know, of her, not that was taken by her, but there you can see it. We should actually put one of those also for these people to see what the goddess of cannabis look like. And you know, if we can sit around a table and we can discuss with you what our experiences was, your hair is going to stand on end, not because you're getting scared, maybe because of jealousy, because what we know, you know, after we have smoked pot, the shaman way, not anyway.
Ernest, our friends out there may be asking, what has the Egyptian use of cannab to do with us as the white 12 tribes of Israel?
Everything, because ancient Egypt is the land where our ancestors learned the proper uses of cannabis.
Thank you, Kabosi. I'm so glad you answered this one, because you gave a very good answer. Ancient Egypt is the land where our ancestors learned the proper uses of cannab. Focus on the word, the proper uses of cannab, not the misusing of cannab. The true Lightside Hefkenam's decisions or dimensions, herb, marijuana or cannabis, is a Hefkenam creation from the beginning. It was in place as a food of the gods and of the Hefkenams in the true Lightside high dimension kingdoms, long before our universe was in place. Cannabis was used by the gods and Hefkenams on earth during the 240 billion years, during which only the creators of earth lived on earth before the first humanity was settled on earth. Now, cannabis is known as the tree of wisdom. Have you ever read somewhere in a Bible about the tree of wisdom? Yes, it was where? In the
Paradise.
Paradisimo. Where else?
Isn't it where Jesus and his disciples?
Yes. We come to that a little bit later on. You will make these people run away. Very interesting. You must just stay focused. Cannabis is known as the tree of wisdom, angel's food, as well as the medicine of the gods, referring to all the creators in the hierarchical structure. Cannabis is also the sacramental right of every man worldwide, and any law against it is only the organized conspiracy of the United Nations and the political governments who assist in maintaining this conspiracy. What conspiracy? That cannabis is a drug, it makes you dumb,
Yeah.
it makes you stupid. I almost want to say, if you don't smoke cannabis, in a spiritual sense, you will be stupid. You
Yeah,
will stay
yes.
mind control stupid. You will never see what you're supposed to see.
They know that if humans on Earth smoke cannabis, their eyes will be open to seeing the truth and nothing else. Can you imagine what will happen during one 24-hour day during which all people on Earth smoke one cannabis joint?
Yeah.
Let's discuss it. What will happen if every one of you out there take one joint of cannabis? I can promise you, at the latest, the next forthcoming Sunday when you go to church will be the last day you
Yeah.
go to church. The use of marijuana or cannabis is as old as the history of man and dates to the prehistoric period. Yeah, I should actually have said the use of marijuana or cannabis by humans is as old as the history of man and dates to the prehistoric period. Marijuana is closely connected with the history and development of some of the oldest nations on earth. It has placed, long before Christianity. It is only Christians who don't prefer
Yeah.
average to smoke it or to use it. It has played a significant role in the religions and cultures of Africa, the Middle East, India and China. The effects of marijuana were proof to the ancients that the spirit and power of the gods existed in this plant and that it was literally a messenger or an angel or actually the bread of the gods and was and continues to be a holy sacrament. Doesn't matter what people say about it. This is what the gods declare it to be and this is what we declare it to be.
In the temples of the ancient world, the main sacrifice was the inhalation of incense. Incense is defined as a perfume or smoke from spices and gums when burnt in celebrating religious rites or as an offering to the deity.
Yes, incense is defined as the perfume or smoke from spices and gums when burnt in celebrating religious rites or as an offering to a deity.
It is said that the Assyrians used marijuana as incense in the 7th and 8th century before Christ and called it kunuba, a term apparently borrowed from an Old East Iranian word kunaba. The name as the Cynthia name is as the Cynthia name cannabis. If you want, you can read the book Plants of the Gods, Origin of Hallucinogenic Use by Richard E. Sculter and Albert Hoffman.
Right, before we go on, let's just refer to that book again. Have you studied that book? I did, and it is very good to study it. Plants of the Gods. Then a little dash, origin of hallucinogenic use. And that was written by Richard E. Schulte and Albert Hoffman. If you can download it from the internet, it will be a very wise decision for you. Sula Bennett in Cannabis and Culture, that is also a book, Cannabis and Culture by Sula Bennett, proved. What must they focus on? The word proved. It's not something that she said, it was proved that the use of cannabis has a much earlier origin in Semitic languages like Hebrew, occurring several times in the Old Testament of the modern Bibles. He states that in Exodus 30 verse 22 that God commands Moses to make a holy anointing oil of myrrh, sweet cinnamon, cannabis, and cassia. Now he continues that the word cannabis is also rendered in traditional Hebrew as sweet calamus, cannabis, or cannabis, and that the root can in this construction means reed or hemp, while bosom means aromatic. He states that in the earliest Greek translations of the Old Testament, the word kan, K-A-N, was rendered to reed, leading to such erroneous English translations as sweet calamus. That was used in Exodus 30 verse 23, sweet cane in Isaiah 43 verse 24, Jeremiah 6 verse 20, and then the word calamus in Ezekiel 27 verse 19 and in Song of Songs 4 verse 14.
In the Christian Bible, in the book Daniel, in the first chapter, we read about Daniel and the children. I will read it for you.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came the Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favoured, and skilful in all wisdom and cunning, in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Mishach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favour and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse killing than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenances of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding and in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. The word used by Bible translators in Daniel or Daniel 1 verse 12, pulse, P-U-L-S-E, is a wrong translation. In the Afrikaans translation, the word pulse is translated with the word groente, which in English means the greens as vegetables. Now at first I couldn't understand what this pulse was. The original word that was used in Hebrew referred to kanap as plants. This makes 100% sense if you take into consideration what happened to Daniel and the young children after eating cannabis for 10 days with spring water alone. And you don't have to believe us. We did it. We all did it. You know, even in the days when it was not lawful to use cannabis, we experimented with this and it works. Now in verse 17 we read what happened to Daniel and the young boys after eating cannab for 10 days with water. That's all. Listen to this. As for these 4 children, who are they? They who ate the cannabis and spring water for 10 days. God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. We all use cannabis for psychic and spiritual development. Some smoke it to keep mind control away. What Daniel and these children gained, we gained when we did it. How many cosmic laws have we received? Visit our website, Paramus Tower of Light, and prove it to yourself.
You can execute your own decision on use of cannabis. We have already. We use it wisely for the right reasons.
I recommend that you study the article Marijuana and the Bible by the Ethiopian Zion Optic Church for full details. In there you will see that wherever Israel traveled, seeds and ashes of cannabis were found in the most holy parts of the Hebrew temples, not in one temple but in all Hebrew temples. Ernst, will you please explain how the temples functioned in those days?
Yes, Nikita, with pleasure. Those temples were built in average 3 sections. One section where the ordinary people gathered around. Then you get the highest, you know, like a little podium, something where only the priests and so were gathered in. And then the most holy, that was behind a curtain. Why behind a curtain? Because they smoked cannabis there. That is why they use it to communicate with their guides, etc. Now in this article, which you can download from our website under more info, you can convince yourself as a Christian what the connection between Jesus or Joshua Redorpa and his disciple was. The question arises, did Jesus use cannabis, and if, how, and for what religious purposes? Go and prove it to yourself.
I get the feeling our spiritual friends out there would like to know if we use only cannabis and or other god foods as well, and what the effects has on us.
What did cannabis do for us? Did it help us in any way? I will start with myself. I had a completed reverendship behind my name when I started to experiment with cannabis, which my one guide Isai told me was also named Baseta in certain Tavala dialects. After I smoked it for the first time, I start identifying true satanic facts in the Bible. Can you imagine how I felt? In those days I cried due to what I found in the Bible. It was too horrible. I never saw it before in my life, and that was after I received a reverendship. Now, I mean, really? I was a qualified Christian reverend and a good Christian as well. Then I start smoking cannabis. The next Sunday I start realizing how brainwashed I really was at that stage of my life before I start using cannabis to smoke it. During the next church service I wanted to walk out of the church just before the tithes were collected. The main reason was as follows. Now, yeah, Kabosi, will you please read the text, but read it slowly so that our friends can focus.
Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But yet you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the window of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it.
Thank you, Kabosi. Listen once again. You know, I'm sure that you out there also heard or read this passage in Malachi. Malachi 3 verses 8 to 10. I'm going to repeat it, where that God of the people of Malachi, what did he say? Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But yet you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings, you know, that 1/10 of your salary per month that you must give to the church. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Listen to this now. This is now what I couldn't believe is in the Bible. Bring you all this tithes, that 10th of yours, into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Kabosi, maybe to you out there the above read text sounded sensible. To me, days after I smoked cannabis, the text wasn't sensible at all. I asked myself the following question, and that is a question that I would like you out there to ask yourself. What kind of a God am I praying to, whom I have to keep alive with my 10th and offerings each month? He has a storehouse wherein he stores meat to eat. You know, sorry that I'm laughing, but this is ridiculous. In the 1933-54 Afrikaans translation of the Bible, it says, now this is only for the Afrikaans people who know English, for them to go and read in their own Bibles. It says, bring dan nou jou volle tiende na my skatkis, sodat daar spys in my huis kan wees. In ander woorde, kos. Now in English, it means that we must bring our tithes to his treasure chest, so that there can be food for him to eat. Think of it next time you give your hard-earned money to Satan's bank to keep Satan and his lies alive. Satan is bound on earth. No other true Lightside, all creator Hefkenam, nor the highest orator Yahweh Gloria. All power on earth was given to Satan, to give it to whom he wants to give it. Satan needs a world bank full of money to keep all power on earth in his hands. And that I can assure you. A true Lightside God doesn't need money for food to keep himself alive. Only Satan, who is bounded on earth, needs money for food. You know, it's so ridiculous. I mean, how is God, that God of Christianity, how is he going to keep us alive if we would be his followers and we come in heaven? How's he going to keep us alive if we have to keep him alive on earth? I mean, that's not a God. I mean, you must be really mind-controlled not to see that. Now, after I had smoked cannabis, I also started to recognize the universal and cosmic laws woven into the history of Israel throughout the Bible. Something the brainwashing of the Christian kept me from seeing. For the first time, I didn't feel alone on earth, searching for a fair, true Lightside God. I met my first spiritual guide, Isaiah. Later, many more guides were added. As I made progress in psychic and spiritual growth, they led me to the highest orator, Yahweh Gloria. You could have the same experience. Now, what did you three experience after smoking cannabis for the first time? Kabos, can we start with you?
Of course. The first time I smoked cannabis wasn't in a sacred space. It wasn't in the right situation. It was totally a different experience. So I don't want to speak about that one. That was a terrible thing. The one that I actually want to speak about is the one that we did actually here in our house. It was with a ceremony that we did, and my eyes actually opened, and for the first time I could see guides, I could see the angels, I could see so much more and learn so much more than any book ever can teach you. Because I mean, the true deity gives you so much more knowledge that isn't written in books.
Yes, thank you, Kabos. Nikita, what about you?
Let's say...
Well, your life is rough as mine.
I'd say they were definitely, like Kobus also states, before, when I was still brainwashed, there were the dark parts of smoking cannabis, using different psychiatric medicines and alcohol and whatever you may have. But I'd say 2 years ago when we came to you, Aris, that's when I started using it on the right manner and at the best manner. So to reach my perfect enlightenment here on earth, and then my brainwashing was definitely quickly gone. It was like doosh.
Well, I can see that, Nikita. I mean, what you tell me each and every day, what you see, where you stay and where you go. I mean, really.
Yeah, it's just
the people out there will not even believe you, because I will believe you, because I've seen it. I can see it with you. We can both sit and look at it. You know, it's not something that you hallucinate because you are now smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, all four of us cannot hallucinate on the same level. So, what about you, Liska?
I think I was lucky because apart from the veils that lifted, the first time I smoked cannabis, it was just a small amount. It was only one toke, and it took me to all other dimensions and other places. So yes, it's apart from the veils, that was a
You know, I
very
must add
nice
something
experience.
to Liska. I mean, she's a well-educated person. She's not a little daughter. She looks very young and so, but I mean, how old are you?
22.
22 years of age. She looks like a little girl of 12 or 13. In the beginning I thought, oh no, you cannot give this child this to smoke, but she actually did it. And after 2 or 3 inhalations, she started seeing things. And when she came to me, telling me what did she saw while under the influence of that 3 puffs of marijuana, I took it to our guides and I asked, it sounds right, but where did she tap in? Because I cannot answer, and they told me she tapped in heaven or dimension 108.
No, 70, 170.
170.
Yes.
Okay, 170, that's correct. Ooh, old age. Right.
Before we go on, I just want to tell you another story. We had a couple of friends one night, and we were sitting outside, and we all had a joint. And out of the blue, Aaron asked him, "Listen, where did you start smoking weed?" And the first one looked at Aaron, he said, "But you learned me." And we go through all, I think we were about 6 or 7 people. All have started with smoking weed when Aaron was...
Well done.
Thank you. I'm not ashamed of it, and I'm still doing it. You know, if I were in command and if I were straight and I was married to a wife and she should become pregnant, I mean, the whole thing will be a spiritual journey. But I will even allow her to smoke marijuana while she is pregnant. So I think my children, if I had to have children, would have started smoking marijuana at the age of 1 or 2. I will just a little bit in their faces. I mean,
In the
we
tummy
do it
already.
every day. We can see what happened to those children.
Aras, I think it's quite, people should realize how big the mind control is, because I grew up. My father he smokes cannabis since I was born. So I grew up with it. But I was also at that part of time it was very illegal, if you understand what I mean. So I can only imagine if my eyes were open earlier and I've spoken only that earlier, how further I would be developed. So it's still a spiritual journey. You grow every day and you get the wisdom every day. So smoke. Get healed.
I'm serious,
And,
it sounds ridiculous, but I also recommend that you start smoking, not anything that you can lay your hands on. Go for a clean one, not something that you picked up in a negative environment or so. Go for quality stuff, and there are a lot of strange different varieties of cannabis that you can start. Remember what we said, it is a spiritual journey with the Most High leading via our guides, especially Isaiah, who was during his last life on earth a Siberian shaman and the best doctor in medicine ever. That was confirmed by the Most High through his Holy One, Yuel.
What about magic mushrooms and other magical substances?
To our friends out there, we as Baram's Tower of Light members are all on different psychic and spiritual grow and development paths. called the Way of the Siberian Shaman. We ask individually to our spiritual guides what we as individuals should and should not use in order to develop psychic and spiritual. It doesn't help you go and start smoking and look into the dark side. Now you don't want to ever smoke it again. Do it the right way. You know, this is why we gave you all the previous programs, that by this time you must be already able to clean your house or your environment, sacred space, to heal, to shield you from the inside outwards. It's very important, otherwise you are also going to become demonic possessed or whatever. You must do it in the correct way. Our long-term psychic and spiritual aim is the following. We don't smoke any available cannabis strain just to get high. Never ever. I personally don't like to feel intoxicated. Me, as an example, started with ordinary cannabis for 3 months, during which I had 2 or 3 pulls per day before I went to sleep, just for the body to get use of it, and the brain as well. I smoked it before I went to bed with 1 to 3 deep inhaled puffs. I had to smoke cannabis to break the mind-controlled state I was in. If you smoke cannabis, the cannabis in your blood will heal and open your third eye. You know, in the food we eat every day, in the even the toothpaste we use, there are so many stuff that block up the third eye, and you know, if you don't get rid of that, it will not go away the first time. You will have to take it slow, but I can promise you, after, let's say, if you smoked a joint, your views on life will be otherwise. You will start seeing what's really going on and not going mind-controlled through life. Each person will be advised differently, because we are not all trained for the same spiritual task in the rest of eternity. I, for instance, am a seer, a philosopher, a comforter, encourager, the compiler of the Brahma's writings, and, with my guide's help, and a high-dimension Zora Molege, healer of consciousness, giving life forms. To develop more and more, I need specific God foods and herbs, which are available all around me. If you want to know the recipes, it's all in the Brahma's writings. That is why I always say, start with book 1, course 1, book 2, course 2, book 3, until you go, when you reach, you know, every time I did something, I mentioned it. What did I use? What did became of it, or how I was developing after using it. So after 3 months, I was guided by my guides to use a specific cannabis strain known to many as Northern Lights. Now, what do you three know of Northern Lights? What does it do when you smoke Northern Lights cannabis?
It makes you laugh a lot, but
Yes, what else?
Yeah, it's good for in-tapping, definitely.
Yes.
Oh,
and
for
you can
sure.
operate it.
You know,
With
Northern
anything.
Lights, you will have a slightly different, what can we call that
It
feeling?
feels like a tinkle.
Yeah, a little vibration in your whole body, whatever. But you will start seeing, if you use any ordinary cannabis or baseta, just to open the third eye, and then after, I said, 3 months of every day 3 or 4 puffs, and then you start Northern Lights. And then you can start, let's say, smoking a half joint just before you want to tap in. Not for the lack of that, you know, you don't do it for the fun. You do it with a purpose. So if you want on forthcoming Saturday to have a little bit of experience, sacred space your whole house, sacred space yourself, shield you from the inside out, make sure you're not demonic possessed as well. And then you take that Northern Lights, go into your house, don't drive your car around or whatever. Sit where it's sacred space and focus. Ask in your mind, Most Highest Toratere Yahweh Goria, I'm doing this for the following reasons. Of course He will know your intentions, and of course He will help you. And then when your eye starts opening, you are going to be so excited that you would actually want to smoke more and more marijuana. But you can trust me, you can never become addicted to it, because there's nothing in marijuana that can make you addicted. Even if I asked one person who's a specialist in different strains of marijuana, and he said to me, nobody ever died of it. You cannot, if you smoke marijuana, die of it. If you get in too much, you will, let's say, pass out and sleep it off, but you will not die of it. You need to have the smoke of a whole bale of pressed marijuana in 15 minutes time in your body before you can start dying. That is impossible. You cannot smoke so much. So and the other thing, because I smoke it, is for the lungs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely.
how many people one of our members,
Yeah.
a few days ago, actually a week or so ago, he nearly went to ICU due to the fact that he was smoking ordinary cigarettes, but he's not a drinker of alcohol or a user of it. But he doesn't even smoke much, but he got a virus or something in his lungs, and he nearly ended up in ICU. And then luckily, when Floranza came in, and he was very, what is the note, out of breath. Nikita made a joke and said, Floranza, you should start smoking Baseta.
Not really a joke, but yeah.
Yeah, but he started laughing because he doesn't smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
Not up to that stage. And then she convinced him, and you know what she did? If this was now a bong, you know what a bong looks like. She and then in his direction, and he filled his lungs up. It was so clotted, or what do you call it, that he couldn't take in a lot. But when he did just a little bit of it, that she blew it in his direction, very near to him, he started coughing, and he sat down. And now we could see he was very out of breath, and she did it once again in his face, and he started coughing again. And then he said, no. He went to his room, and after about 15 minutes he came back and he said, you know what? My lungs are open. When I left here, I thought I was going to die, but when I entered my own room, I started coughing, all the slime came loose, and during that night, the next day, he told us that where he had to take a sleeping pill before he can sleep, because he's too out of breath. And then that night, he didn't take a sleeping pill, he just went to bed. He wasn't out of breath any time during the night, he didn't wake up any time. When he arose, his skin color was normal with a pink shine in it. So then he came and I said to him, are you going to take another too? And he said, yes. So he will not take it if it didn't work. We gave him once again 2 little puffs, and on his way he went. Next day, felt much better. So then, we ask the guides. Now, if you can just give me that book there, the one with the stripes on it. And we ask, I booked a question for my weekly conversation with my guides, and I ask, let me just get to the place. Yes. I ask them, will it be okay if Floranza use, let's say, 2 inhales from a bong every night before he goes to sleep. And the one on the other side was Lozaziala, and he said yes, but he must also do a mantra, and that mantra I'm going to recite for you so that you can also have it. If you smoke pot and you're suffering a little bit of the lungs, you haven't got breath, before you smoke it, you just say, in the previous programs you've got the words for it, for the, what is the RNF, for the intro. You say Rmotsa Lonsat Fast Palo Toratre Yahweh Goria. Then comes the mantra. Halmotele. 10 times. Then you take your smokes. Once again, Rmotsa Lonsat Fast Palo Toratre Yahweh Goria. Halmotele. And then after the 10 times, you do what you should do. Thank you, Most High Toratre Yahweh Goria. All glory to you. And then you take your 2 or 3 inhalations. I'm going to spell it to you. It's H-A-A-A-A-L. In other words, a long hal, and then M-O, M-O, and then T-E-E-E-E-L-E. It's a long tele. So in other words, 10 times every night, take your few inhalations of marijuana or baseta or dacha, whatever you prefer to use it, and then you will see it will help you for your lungs. Now let's continue. When my guides advised me to change to the strain called Charlotte's Web, a new urge, a few puffs and deep inhalations per night before I turn out the light. Now later the intake was increased. Do it any other way and the chances are excellent that while smoking cannabis you will end, or you will find yourself in the dark side dimensions. So please don't go, I always say to a person, we are used to cannabis and every other thing, magic mushrooms, not every other thing but a few, as far as we have come with our spiritual path, the way of the shaman. So stick to it and never try to prove you to be a hero by just taking pot, any kind of, doesn't work. As I developed psychically and spiritually, the guides changed the strain that I had to use many times. You use a strain for a month or two, and then it changed again. After each new strain, new developments took place. I improved my psychic and spiritual abilities. In the beginning you saw, or I saw where I was allowed to see earthbound spirits, demons, etc. But after that smoking ceremony for a few months, I started noticing that even if my eyes was closed, I saw, and that was without pot. I mean, you take the pot the previous night, now the next day, let's say the evening, 6 o'clock or so, now you're doing a paratose and all of a sudden you start seeing through your Mageda irises. Now you go back and say, what did I see? And they say, this is what you're supposed to see. You as a consciousness giving life form, your eyes have just opened to see in other dimensions as well. Now, yeah, that was something that, after that, when I saw stuff like that, I started feeling emotionally so glad. I couldn't praise the Most High enough for leading or allowing me to use all this stuff. But as I said, if you do it with the right intention, it will have the right effect on you. As you guessed, one specific strain, cannabis, will not keep on developing your psychic or spiritually. There are layers which should not be skipped. You know, if I can compare it with a block of flats, floor number 1, floor number 2, 3, 4, etc. If you use ordinary, let's say, cannabis that you can get any place, and you smoke it just for the fun of it, of course it's going to open your third eye, but it is to see in a certain level. Let's say you can see in dimension 4, or one of the sub-dimensions of dimensions 4. You can now start seeing earthbound spirits, demons, etc. walking around or in people. Now after a long time, you start, let's say after 3 months, the next strain, for 2 or 3 months, then the next, as I described it in the Brahma's writings. And then you will see it start developing in the right way. Otherwise, you know, a lot of my friends, or 2 of them in any case, when I advised them how to smoke, they said, "Ach man, I'm not going to listen to him, I'll smoke and I'll take mushrooms whenever I want." So they did. It was 2 of them. Today I will tell you about them. They are really, I will give you the correct name. When I was physically and spiritually developed enough to take on other psychic and spiritual challenge, the guides advised me to start using a specific strain of magic mushrooms in order to open higher dimensions. It is like steps. You go 1 step, not 1 step and then the 6th step. You cannot go from floor number 1 to floor number 13, because you are skipping all the in-between layers of your mind that should be. Now all of a sudden you see in the dark side what's going to happen. Hey, my friend, then you are really on the wrong track. Can you remember what was the first strain of mushrooms I had? Cambodian, thank you, Cabos. And yes, you know, then came another one and another one, but that is in the Brahma's writings. Then again, different cannabis strains, and later on other strains of magic mushrooms. I developed level by level by level, and I am still developing. Months after that, my spiritual guide is the Siberian shaman, and the best doctor in spiritual medicine of all time, taught me to compile the ingredients for my next level of spiritual and psychic development. I needed shamanic mescaline, and me, Cabos, and 1 other Brahma's member, his name is Petrus, were authorized by the guides to use it. The rest of our members were not physically and psychically and spiritually enough developed to join us. Otherwise, what will happen to them? They will skip a few levels and then all of a sudden they need to die. I mean, what's going to happen? No, you go according to the way of the shaman. You're not in a hurry. And the 3 chosen ones, me, Cabos, and that Petrus, we had to die physically and come back, which the 3 of us did. Now, can you imagine a guy tells you, you are going to die if you use that in the recipe, but I can promise you will come back. Are people going to believe them? I don't think so. I believed my guide, and he believed as well, and Petrus believed. And so, you know, in the beginning I thought maybe we will pass out, you know, and then, because it's a huge recipe, it takes about 9 months to go through the whole thing before you know, each time you get a little bit of it to take in, but then the last one is a whole cupful. And I must say, I thought we were going to astral out of our bodies. After a while, I mean, I sat with a lot of people busy dying physically, and I know what the routine is, and I said to the other two, I think we are going to die physically because I can feel it. And they said, yeah, you become cold and sweaty, you know, the earth, then fire, then water, then spirit, all those layers of dying we went through. And then all of a sudden I saw a kind of a mirage in front of me, and I just said, Most High, I trust in you. And oops, I found myself in dimension 9 where I came from. And I recognize even buildings there, and a lot of other angelical beings taught me how to pray before I eat food. And I said to them, will it work with us there on earth? Yes, of course it will work, just do it. And they taught me to visualize what food must do before you take it in and what it must taste like. And I think they activated something in my brain, because when we came back, I came back first, and I found myself back in my body, cold and sweaty, but I was there. The other two was still in their dimensions, but they came back. I mean, yeah, he sits, the other one also. And we all had our own experiences, but when I came back, we started discussing it. And the previous day we bought some grapes, but it was so sour, you know, if you take one, you don't even want to. I put it back because I don't want to waste food, but I put it back in the freezer. And when I came back, I thought to myself, this is a good time for an experiment. And I took the grape, I visualized it in my mind to be what this must actually, I see here what is inside here, and I spoke the words, and then I tried it. And it was a grape that I never tasted before. It was not sweet, it was not sour, it was a totally different experience. So they taught me how to pray before I eat my food. You know, I'm still using it today. You know, it's a Tavala prayer, but it is so awesome if you do it, and while you're eating, you visualize the food become what it's intended to be in the first place. Now, after that level was completed, I took a course with my guide Isai in the Philosopher's Stone, or white gold. You know, one day, one of my friend's guides, Diana, I asked her actually, this Harry Potter movie and all that, Lord of the Rings and that, is there really a Philosopher's Stone? And she said, yes, it will come to you because you are a philosopher. And I thought, well, maybe in the next life. But when this happened to me, I start using it. And I can promise you, the philosopher inside me grew and expanded to where it is now. One step at a time, more than one step at a time, can let you end up in true dark side, after which shamans will refer to you as a Zamratu, or a daydreamer living in a self-created fool's paradise that not exist. We know two people who ended up as Zamratos because they thought our way of developing was too slow and disciplined for them. Another extremely important ancient wisdom secret that I want to share with you is, if you want to experience psychic and spiritual progress, do what I did and follow the way of the Siberian shaman Isai. How Isai led me through the years is proof of the safe way to develop. My recipes is woven into the Brahma's writings if you are interested. If you decide to take your own way, make sure you don't miss out on in-between levels. Otherwise, I can assure you that you will experience the dark side realms. Don't become a Zamrato or a daydreamer living in a self-created fool's paradise.
In the next program, which is program Y, we as a team are going to share ancient wisdom secrets on the subject, are you ready if you have to die unexpectedly? In case your answer is yes, good luck to you. If you perhaps don't know if you are really ready to die unexpectedly, this program is for you. Death is not what people think death is.
And please, people out there, thank you, Liska. Please try and watch this, and please also share it with other people. You know, people think they live and they are going to become old, and all of a sudden a car hits them, or you know, they die of a sudden death, or get a truly dramatic illness like cancer or so, a very quick one, and then those people are not ready to die. You know, I face it every day of my life. So please tune in on the next one.
Please remember to like, share, subscribe and tickle a little bell icon to be in line for more ancient wisdom secrets. Until we gather together again,
Happy smoking and bye.